like a politician.
Understood.
You understand me? So where does that come from as well, and how did you get into more of the political conversation?
Got you. Hold on. Let me answer my first question first. Let me jump past there. So originally, after we went to the White House, we started getting a little traction on social media, etc. And I had originally made a GoFundMe after we first went viral, and we had raised like $20,000 the first week. This before we had even went to the White House. We raised like $20,000 like that first week. And I was mind blown. Now, mind you, I ain't know nothing about no nonprofit, no LLC, none of that stuff. I ain't know none of that little stuff like that. People was like, "Hey, do you have a 501c3?" And I'm like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
You know. So then I had to get a manager. I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" And so they, helped me get everything situated and stuff like that. Fast forward to March of 2021. I went on Roland Martin's show to talk about voter suppression. And me, I'm big on do for self.
Why would they want to restrict voting when you just had record turnout in Georgia?
Well, let me start off by saying you had me mistaken. I'm not a Republican. I do consider myself conservative.
No. Actually, I didn't say Republican. I said you're conservative.
Okay.
I said you're conservative.
Right, absolutely.
That's what I said.
Right. Yeah, I was saying that because you called me a Republican on Twitter. However, with this particular bill, I don't consider voting my particular fight. I do consider voting an asset to us and maybe something we can use as a tactic to help. But as far as us pushing voting all the way out, like voting is going to be some systemic change for the black community, to me is not the way to go. If you look at the human anatomy of the body has its many different parts. And I do respect you guys' fight, in regards to voting, but I don't consider myself fighting for the right to vote that much. Because
do you not vote?
We hadn't got anything.
Do you not vote?
Government. Voting is not my issue to fight. I believe.
So what's your issue to fight?
My issue, I fight for young black men before they die. And that's what I do in my organization. I do teach them to vote, but I don't tell them that voting is going to be the be all end all.
No one says the be all and end all, but it's a part of it.
But you guys promote voting like it's just going to change like the systemic outlook of the black community. That's not where it's at. We have to get out and go do for self in our own community. When I say do for self, you shared one of my tweets, my videos, and I was actually a big fan of yours, but you shared one of my tweets. When I said black people need to stop begging the government and go and do for self out in our communities, you shared the video and called me an idiot. I didn't see anything idiotic about that statement at all.
So when you say do for self, like what? Explain that.
Okay, for example, here in Albany, Georgia, we complain about our school systems a lot. Many of our young men can't read. They have very horrible literacy rates. We don't have any rehab programs here for juvenile offenders. What I decided to do, I started a program 2 years ago, decided to do for self, and I started taking children into my home. I started taking custody of kids from juvenile court, and I started molding them and training them and teaching them skill trades, etc. Now I'm 21 years old. I just purchased a school here in Albany, Georgia to combat us being in the government-funded schools that are not teaching our children what they need to learn. So that's what I mean by do for self, simply getting up and going out and do it.
So
I beat the stereotype that I'm young, black, in America, and I can't do anything because somebody's holding me down. Absolutely not.
So a question.
Teenagers went and go ahead. Me and some teenagers went and bought a school, and we just bought a school bus simply from going out and doing work. We decided to go fix our own communities. I'm not expecting anything from no politician. I'm not expecting nothing from Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or nobody. We're gonna go do it for ourselves, and that's what I believe we need to be doing. I can vote, sure, but nothing's gonna change in our community.
So you went to,
and that's simply what I explained. I'm just like, I don't like.
I posted that part.
And I don't have a problem, with voting at all. Do that, but I'm not stop marketing it like voting is just gonna save the world. That's what's gonna fix our whole community.
Yeah, no, both of the jobs are the same on Negro song.
Yeah. So I'm just that was my point. I'm not saying we don't need the government and stuff like that. Sure, if they're gonna offer some help, cool. But I'm not waiting on them. We're gonna do for self, and that was the point. So anyway, that clip went viral, and we got so much attention. Celebrities, Rihanna started following me. I mean, it was the whole night. It happened. And that's when we got enough traction to it was consistent funding coming in all the time. And so in the process of me raising money, I started trying to go buy a school from our local school system, and we got into a long, drawn-out contract process with them. It took us about 7 to 8 months to try and purchase this school that was up for demolition, by the way. And finally, we get the contract back for them after like 7 months. And the contract states it had like 6 funny clauses in it, but I'll tell you the main one that basically turned us off. It said the deed of conveyance shall contain a use restriction that the property cannot be used for a private or a charter school unless the school system teaches the curriculum. And I was just like, that's not what we trying to do. Like, we're trying to do our own thing. But they was like, well, we can, redline it and, redo it and all that. I'm just like, but if you're going to give me this outright, you not going to let me have my own stuff or whatever.
That's how America works. You never truly own it.
Yeah, so I was just like, nah, so we got into it with them for a little bit, and we had a big falling out with that, and, I just canceled negotiations. And so we ended up purchasing 3 small buildings on our south side of town in Albany, Georgia. So with us purchasing those...
What's the timeline between all of this, from conception to reality?
2019 to now? Yeah, it's about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so that June 2021, May of 2021, we purchased 40 acres of land on the south side of town, $100,000 cash. We bought that, and
That's pretty good.
Yes, very good. Very good. And so then in June, we purchased 3 buildings for our school.
What was the cost of the buildings?
$70,000.
Very good.
Yep, $70,000.
I gotta move to Albany, man. What's going on, man?
Yeah,
the money sound like go Fargo.
The cost of living there is very, very low. So we purchased those 3 buildings for $70,000 cash, but they weren't, they ain't that big. We was just gonna start there. We weren't able to buy the school, so I was like, we're just gonna start somewhere because I'm not doing this whole. We're finna try and find something else. We're just gonna find what we got and we'll work right here and we'll move forward. But anyway, purchased those 3 buildings. The next month, my realtor hit me. That was trying to sell us another building before, and we weren't able to raise the money for that in time. And she hit me. She said, "King, there's a school downtown for sale." And I say, I've been living here my whole life. There's no school downtown for sale. Like, there's not even a school downtown. I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, no, it is a school downtown. She was like, the old Friendship Church has a school in it. Now, I went to pre-K at this place, but I had never remembered what was in there. And I was just like, that's a church. She was like, no, it's a school with a church attached to it. So she was like, come tour it. So I went and looked at it, man, and it's 41,000 square feet. Gym, cafeteria, whole nine. I mean, it's everything I need. 25 classrooms, library, chapel, whole nine, man. And I was just like,
what's the cost?
$400,000. So I said, well, man, we ain't got no money. I said, we just spent our money on this last building. And she was like, well, can you call some donors or something? And I was like, well, I wish I could. I said, but we literally been raising money for like 2 years now. And I was like, we just got these buildings. We want to start here. She was like, you can't let this go. And in my mind, I really can't, because it was everything we needed. So I jumped out, stepped out on faith. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just... And I called one of my donors. And he said, okay, King. He said, I'm going to trust you. And we hadn't even got our 501c3 paperwork back yet. He said, I'm going to trust you. He said, I'm going to give you $20,000 to start out, because we only needed $70,000 to get in the door. So he said, I'm going to give you $20,000 to start out. I said, okay. So, but we need to raise $50,000. So I got on Twitter. I made a tweet. I said, listen, we need to raise $50,000 by Christmas. This was October. I said, we need to raise $50,000 by Christmas time to be able to get in this location. I posted that tweet, and we raised $50,000 in 36 hours. 36 hours. Yes.
It's a lot that I can draw from a lot that you just told me. Mostly, the strategy and the implication of utilizing technology. There's a lot of activists, community organizers, and people out there that want to do something similar, that have ideas. Right. But, you actually execute, right? But not only execute, in this digital age of social media, I talk about aggregate efficiency a lot. The amount of energy you put in based on the amount of energy you get out. You understand me? As somebody that wants to build a school, learning the strategies of how to implement, digital real estate, if you will. You understand me? And digital strategies in it is what allow us to be able to go further than we ever could have. Right. Because in old times, you just trying to get a simple GoFundMe, that probably wouldn't have went very well, because it sounds to me you was able to get 4 buildings. You understand me? Within 3 years, by utilizing social media, you understand me, and connecting your passion and your purpose to it. Right. And I think that that's something that a lot of people can learn from, just because within that, if I want to start me a school today or anything, I'm utilizing that same exact type of route that you just took. And that's why I kind of wanted to go through the numbers, because it showcases what reality is. Now, I watched a bit of your interview on Valuetainment, and at the time you said it was 1,500 donors. You understand me? How many of it is it now total?
Last time I checked, 2,258 donors down to the number.
Now, how much has the highest donor given?
My highest donor has given 50,000.
50,000.
Yeah. Well, so, two donors gave 50,000. One so back 50, in the
and then of course 400,000 is that's a lot of money. Yeah. $70,000 per building, $100,000 for 40 acres. That was an amazing deal. You probably ain't gonna find in the country for real. But
Yeah.
at the same time, with 2,000 people being able to come there, you about to change the trajectory of your whole community. And that's really was the whole point that I was getting to. It's like, in the way that we utilize NFT, especially when you talk about social impact or philanthropy, you know, that could have easily been a NFT project, right? Now, that shit wasn't around back in those days, you feel me? It was around, but it wasn't prominent and wasn't platforms that you can use as a strategy, and people weren't educated on it. But imagine if you did have a 2,000-3,000 piece project that allowed people to come in, buy in pieces of right what you wanted to do. And this is what represented the back end of this project.
Right.
We're going to build up some schools. And then each one of those NFTs was a representation of a school, right? Or supplies, or whatever a person wanted to give, from $300 to $50,000, depending on whatever they wanted to give.
Right.
This, to me, is the most important part of how we can utilize technology to create social impact.
Yep.
You understand me? Like, all around the world, especially throughout America and the disenfranchised areas of America, there's people that's trying to figure out how to do exactly what you just did. But this is redevelopment of mental, physical infrastructure of the hoods of America. Whether you want to tackle the school system issues, because the school system is the most important key. Because you not talking to I talk to a lot of stubborn adults on the consistent.
Yeah, man.
You're talking to the most fertile minds where you don't have to reprogram them. If you catch them young, you don't have to wait till they later on give them a lesson by them getting shot, them being in prison, you understand me, or them just going through the war of life. And then trying to reprogram an adult mind is hard.
Yep.
You understand me? So it's very commendable, but at the same time, it's very new age. You understand me? We've seen many people try to raise money. We've seen many people try to do a lot of different things, but just not effective.
Right.
You understand me? And I think that the model that you represent is a new effective model that we can use, and it eliminates excuses. You know, because that moment you got that phone call, you could have just relented to say, no, we got 3 buildings, I took on enough responsibility.
Yep.
But knowing what you actually need to make the real impact and to complete the vision, now we're going to put ourselves back out there, implement the strategy, step out on faith, execute, and it happened.
Yep.
And then another part of that is, when I look at your situation, you know, unfortunately, we need a lot of, you have an ability to transmute the chaos around you, to focus directly on what your intentions are.
Yep.
Right? Even when other platforms, I'm sure, contacted you through the Roland Smith, Martin thing, because they knew that they could use that. Number one, is heightened and went viral, but also black men going at each other anytime. It's something we love to highlight.
Yep.
So tell me why you don't like this black man. Tell me y'all differences. And it's like, let me focus on this school right now.
And I said I made sure not to play into that. You know, I've reached out to, you know, Brother Roland multiple times, you know, trying to do a partnership because.
And how did those talks go?
I think, you know, it's still a little hostility there, you know. Just
I don't think Roland liked me much. I ain't never had any much to say, but
for one thing, you know, I appreciate him just even allowing me to come on the platform because
how did that come about?
Well, originally on Twitter, you know, I was following our brother Roland on Twitter, and you know, I was a fan of it. I watched this show.
That was OG at first.
Yeah, he was OG. You know, I'm just like, it's Roland Martin. You know, like that. Yeah, he was like an OG. That's Roland Martin. You know, and you know, I made a tweet about black people doing for self, and I was just like, you know, we need to start doing for self in our community and stop waiting on, you know, the government, stuff like that. But he shared it and called me an idiot, and I was just like, how am I an idiot for saying that we should start doing for self?
That's the same brother who has an issue with white companies not giving him money for black media and spreading that budget. But the idea of doing for self is that, yes, we can wait on them to do the right thing, or we can do the right thing ourselves, right? It's a simple message that all leaders